Alrighty. Alrighty. We're here. We're on. We're live. Another one. This time through Gracie Baja Oceania. Very exciting. Coach Sheryll, thank you so much for coming and sitting down to talk with us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, before I hit our guest with a barrage of questions, everyone who's tuning in, Facebook, Zoom, or YouTube, it doesn't matter. You can send us a question, and we will either get to your question while I'm talking to Coach Sheryll, or by the end of the interview, we'll have another little question time. We can come back to it then, or if you only think of a question by that stage, that's fine too. With that said, Coach Sheryll, brown belt, coach at Gracie Baja Blacktown City, our guest for this evening. Thank you again for coming. Anything you want to say before I start throwing the curveballs at you?
Yes, I just want to say hello and good evening to everyone who actually joining tonight. So thank you all so much for your time. And I hope that whatever we'll have in this interview, I'll be able to inspire in some way you guys. Yeah, thank you. Most especially to my GB Blacktown City students, and Professor Nelson is here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming. Alrighty, coach, let's do it. So, I gave you some fair warning before this started, right, about the different topics. So let's
Yes.
jump into it. Let's begin with a brief biography for the people who, like myself, don't know all your personal history. So perhaps you can start by telling us, when you were, where you were born, how you came to be in Australia, things like that.
Okay, so we came here in Australia in 2003. I graduated back in the Philippines in 2001. Both I and Professor David completed. Then, so that was in 2001, we got married. And then 2002, we had Isaiah. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so basically at the time, a family friend of my mother-in-law said to my mother-in-law, why don't you let David go to Australia, because she was based here now and her family. And then my mother-in-law is like, oh, okay, because in the Philippines, I guess it's just being in Australia would be better for us. So my mother-in-law said, oh yeah, okay. And then, so at the time, we were thinking, because David was thinking whether to pursue occupational therapy again. But then my mother-in-law found out that he can only stay in Australia for a year and that he can't bring me and Isaiah.
Mm.
So my mother-in-law said, no, that can't be, because I don't want you to be away from your wife and from your son. And that's why they said for him to take nursing. So Professor
Mm-hmm.
David,
Mm-hmm.
so we came here as student under student visa. Professor David studied nursing, and then he completed the course in 2006. And then after that, I went back to uni in 2007 as well. And then I completed my degree as well, because my degree back in the Philippines um, is not, basically I need to do the bridging course so
Sure,
that I
sure.
can practice occupational therapy here. So that's it. So basically Isaiah was the one who get into jiu-jitsu first.
Okay.
He was doing Muay Thai at, I think he started when he was 6 or 7 years old. And then Professor David was just driving through around Sunny Hope Road, because that was where the first Gracie Baja Blacktown was. And he just get curious about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why he went. And then that's it. Isaiah started training Jiu-Jitsu. And then how parents will be bringing the kids, right, to the kids class.
Yes.
And then you'll be like, huh, why not try it? So Professor David started training as well. So now those two, right? So Professor
Mm-hmm.
David and I was training. And then I remember back in 20, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was in 2013. But basically, so 2011 I started training. It
Mm-hmm.
was actually September when I started training.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because, so first I want to try jiu-jitsu, right? But then, because Gracie Baha, and I just actually posted it today because it's funny, how it came up to my newsfeed. And that was my first um, solo picture in my gi, which was a pink gi, because I love pink. So
Sure, sure.
Gracie Baha is that pink gi. And so I was always excited to go training. So that's it. 2011, I started training,
2011.
and it's tough, most especially during that time, because there's not much women right now. Like now, there's a lot of
Mm.
women training jiu-jitsu already, and they're very very lucky because at the time, we'll probably be 10, and then after that, there's gonna be two again or three, and then it'll be just me again.
Yeah,
And so it
yeah.
was a struggle, but I guess it helped that my son and my husband was training at the
Mm.
time. And then next thing you know, my daughter Maya and my son Zachariah was training too.
The whole
So the whole
family, the
family
whole crew.
started training jiu-jitsu.
How, Coach, how long had Professor David and your son Isaiah been training when you jumped in? And could you tell us more about that process? How interested in jiu-jitsu were you at the beginning, or were you motivated more perhaps by, oh, my family is involved in this. I want to enjoy it with my family too.
You know what? I think, as far as I can remember, because at the time, I remember when in 2011, there was an instance where, because I was already working as an occupational therapy at the time,
Hmm.
but then I actually was racially discriminated, and I think so. Basically, it impacted me, and that what actually drove me to train jujitsu, because at the time I felt that I was weak in overcoming that. Like how after something
Mm.
happened to you, and you'll feel that you can sort of um, address that, and you feel you can't overcome it.
Mm.
And I guess, and today, that's actually my post 9 years ago about how jiu-jitsu actually changed me and changed my life.
Mm.
So I guess, it might be a cliche to some that, oh, you always say jiu-jitsu changed your life, jiu-jitsu saved you, and things like that. But I guess, and that's what I always say to my students, I want you to experience it yourself,
Yes.
so
Yes.
yep,
I
that's
know
what
I
I
know
always
so many
say.
people who've said the same thing, right? Those numbers have to mean
Yeah.
something. Yeah. And maybe we'll get back to that in a little while, but I'll ask quickly. Do you feel like jiu-jitsu had the intended effect on you that you had hoped for or looked for when you were attracted to the martial art after those experiences in your workplace?
Yes, definitely. Because that quote that I really love, and because for me, jujitsu is really perfect. And don't get me wrong, right? It's like a love hate, not hate, but don't like relationship with
Mm.
me with jujitsu. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, so in love with jujitsu, but sometimes I'll be like, I don't like it. You know what I mean? But I guess it's a matter, and that's what jiu-jitsu will actually do to you. Jiu-jitsu will test you, and jiu-jitsu will actually expose your weaknesses, your strength, and everything. And that's why, when, I don't know if you've heard about it, when about Master Carlos. That's what he do whenever he's gonna choose someone. He'll just gonna watch how they roll and how they are on the mats, and that's it. Because with me, I guess, I'm like that. Like, jiu-jitsu really exposed me, and, like, because with me, I'm really black and white. I'm like, and that's why I said,
Mm.
it was a struggle for me being the program director, because it was sort of like an opposite of who I am. Because I would rather be in a room reading my book, or like writing in the journal, as much as I would really love socializing. But
Mm.
I guess, most especially with this bitch face, if I'm not smiling, then a lot of people will always think, oh, such a bitch. But um I guess that's what jiu-jitsu really helped me to really focus on who I am, rather than rather than okay, I need to please everyone just for them to
Mm,
like me
mm,
as me, you know.
mm,
And to me, I would rather be not liked, not hated, because I think hate is such a strong word. But I would rather
mm,
be not liked for who I am rather than be loved for who I'm not.
mm. I think maybe you've spoken a little bit about some of the kind of end results of jiu-jitsu and what it means to you and how it's helped shape your idea of yourself and who you want to be and how you interact with other people. But could you talk to us a little bit about, you spoke about how difficult and confronting it was. You said you felt exposed a little bit. How come when you started training and you had those sensations, you didn't just walk out the door and leave and go, nah, that's it, I'm done?
Yeah, because when you're training, right, and we have that ego, right? And I think, with Professor Anna Laura, she explained it really well that it's good to have an ego, but you need to know which one you're feeding. Are you feeding the good
Mm,
ego where you learn how to improve yourself and be a better version of yourself, or you feed that ego where, oh, I'm the best here, I can always submit anyone, and I'm better than you. So it jiu-jitsu, I think, helped me to really sort of really know myself more, and I guess to really master that you really wouldn't care about what anyone will be thinking of you on the mats. Like,
mm,
because I'm pretty sure people will have that perception, or your teammates, or your, like, the students that you're rolling with. I'm pretty sure, they'll have something, or they'll think about something, or they can say about something about you when you're rolling, or, when you're about your jiu-jitsu, right? But I think jiu-jitsu really helped me to really focus on my own journey, and to really focus on how I can have fun, and I can have, I'm just really, I guess, blessed that I have Professor David and my son Isaiah who's training, and my daughter Maya and Zachariah. So I think it helped a lot that I have someone who I can actually talk
mm-hmm,
whenever I'm frustrated, or
mm-hmm.
whenever I feel like I don't feel like training, or whenever I don't want this, I don't like this anymore,
Yeah, yeah.
But they'll be the one to say that, they'll give me room to actually just say, okay, if you don't want to train now, that's all right. So they'll go
Yeah.
training, and they'll just leave me at home. Um, but then when I'm home, and then they'll come home from training, I'll be like, damn it, I should have gotten my gi and just train, But I guess that's the lesson that I guess I want to share with everyone. And I guess the people who trains in Blacktown as well. That's what I always say, because
Mm,
sometimes what we always do is look for motivation, right? It's not really. You just need to take the action, and you just need
mm,
to put on your gi, drive to the gym, to the academy, and just be there and train. That's it.
mm.
Because if you're going to look for motivation to train, sometimes you won't find it. But if you take the action and to just really be there, and you'll overcome it.
Terrific piece of advice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree. You mentioned your family a little bit there. One of the things I was most excited about asking you about was the dynamic of, I suppose, not just doing jujitsu with your family, but almost raising your family with jujitsu, right?
I know.
Yeah,
you
I
know
hope someday to have my
oh
own
my
kids on the
god.
mat. So I'm so interested in the dynamic. You spoke about how it helped you. Has it ever gone the other way? There's been obstacles to overcome, or how would you describe that experience?
Well, you know what? It's funny because since yesterday and since this morning, I was thinking about the whole journey, right? Since 2011. But basically, it was since 2008, because it was, I think, 2008 when Isaiah started training, and
Mm-hmm.
he was 8 years old, and he's now 19. My goodness, I'm
My
thinking, oh my
goodness.
gosh, it's half of his life he's doing
Yes.
jujitsu,
I'm so jealous he
and the
got to
whole,
start so young.
yeah, but and see, this is the thing. I really want people to know that this is the best investment that they can give to themselves. Let me tell you a story. Back then, so when we came here, we were just living in a granny flat. So it's a two-room granny flat, and jiu-jitsu is not cheap, right? And at the time, we still chose to train jiu-jitsu as a family. We still chose to invest
Wow.
in jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
We're paying for jiu-jitsu. And you know and people around us will be saying, oh, how come you keep on training jiu-jitsu? How much are you paying that? You could have saved your money to buy your own house and things like that. But I guess, you really need to sort of prioritize. And I guess at the time, our priority was jiu-jitsu. So, so to us, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter where we live. It doesn't matter, what we were eating, or like, we just need to ensure that we need to be able to pay for jiu-jitsu. You
Yes.
know what I mean? We need to be able to buy the gis and things like that, because I think that really is the best investment that you can give to yourself and to the whole family.
Mm.
And I'm truly grateful that I can see now a lot of and more families are actually training jiu-jitsu.
Mm.
And Gracie Baja has that kind of environment where everyone can train as the whole family, rather than, oh, this is just for athletes or the best in jiu-jitsu. Do you get what I mean? So
Yes.
we Gracie Baja has built that environment.
Yes. Okay, I have two questions on that note. You've spoken about it's a terrific investment. For then my two questions.
Mm-hmm.
For people who have a partner who they train with or who they'd like to train, and they want to, they want to make good on that investment. They want to get some of those dividends back. What advice do you have for them to, I don't know, either stay motivated or keep themselves, their partner engaged in the gym together? What piece of advice would you have for a couple in that situation? And then the same question for parents who have children. They'd like their children to train, or their children are training and they'd like to get involved. What advice do you have for people in those situations?
I think, it's like what I've said. It's really, I guess, to be able to have that faith that it really is the best investment for yourself and for the whole family.
Mm.
Because, like what they said, if you really like to do something or to do that thing, then you won't have any reasons why you wouldn't do it. So you're going to do everything you can to be able to have the money to pay for jiu-jitsu. And and I think now with Gracie Baha as well, we're able to do that. We're able to help the families. We're able to help the people. And, all you need to do is talk, I guess, to your coach or to the school owner, and basically just communicate whatever they can help you with. If, for example, money is a problem,
Mm.
then explore what they what can be there to actually help you.
Mm.
And I think it's really important that your love for jiu-jitsu really needs to come from yourself, not because someone is actually telling you to do it. And because some, like for me, like what I've said, it's going to be like, oh, I like it, oh, I love it.
Yes. Yes.
But at the end of the day, it really needs to be about the person,
Mm.
their decision to really go for it and do it.
Mm. You spoke before as well, talking about, just going for it, just doing it. Sometimes don't rely on motivation. It might not be there. Just turn up and
Mm-hmm.
take action. But
Yep.
just before I move to maybe a new topic of a new series of questions, what advice would you have for people who, in those moments where, like you talk about the love hate of jujitsu, I'm the same. Sometimes it just sucks. You don't want to go get
Yeah.
squashed. You just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
How do you What advice would you have for people dealing with that, to how to sort of self-conceptualize what they're experiencing?
You know, I always suggest this to my students to actually have a journal. And I have my journal ever since I actually started jiu-jitsu. And that in that journal, in that black journal, my very first journal, it doesn't matter. Always write everything, just everything, whatever techniques you've learned for that training day, whatever techniques you've done, whatever mistakes you've done, why did you get submitted, and things like that. How are you feeling? I don't like this, and things like that.
Mm.
So then it will actually, because I'm a visual person. Sometimes, if you just tell me what to do for the technique, I wouldn't get it. I need
Sure.
to actually physically see it so that I'll know, and I'll learn, and I'll understand. But I think that helped me, because then, you know whenever I feel low and whenever I don't feel like training, I will just get that journal again, and I'll just read through
Mm-hmm.
what I've wrote, what I've written, what the professors have written. Because, in that journal, it's funny because in that journal, I have Professor Nelson, because back then who was a student as well, but look at him now, he's a professor now. I've got, Prof. Marshall Lemas, and there has been people who wrote there that has already left Crazy Baja. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think it's a very, very, I guess, um, you'll really treasure those things, because then you can look back and say, okay, I need to do this, I need to keep going, and things like that. So
Yes.
it sort of help you to really sort of, okay, think and really assess, okay, why am I feeling like this? Why don't I
Sure.
feel like training? So it gives you that opportunity to think about what you're feeling, how you're feeling, what are you going to do about it,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know
Mm. Yo,
so
I
yeah, that's
can
what I did. And
I
yeah, and like what I've said, you need to just master um focusing on your own journey rather than comparing yourself with someone.
mm.
um because that's what I guess that's what I've mastered. I really mastered not to compare myself to anyone, because otherwise I won't be in this journey anymore.
Yeah.
And whenever I get submitted, or like, and plus I think, another thing that I really want to share is about when you actually experience an injury,
Mm-hmm.
because I think a lot of people more or less experienced an injury through training jiu-jitsu, right? Whenever
Have you had
when
an injury
I
yourself while you were training,
Oh
coach?
my gosh, yes. I can't, it came to a point where I can't walk, it's too painful.
Wow.
um my left shoulder was the latest one. And, I think it's just very important to communicate it with your coaches, with your professors, with your training partners, with your
Mm.
students, because they can definitely understand it,
Mm.
because I think it's not helpful that you're just gonna soldier on, and that you're gonna think, no, I'll be okay. You know what I mean? So, because sometimes I think that's what jiu-jitsu taught me as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to really sort of learn how to know what your limits are if you had injury,
Mm-hmm.
and work on what you can do and focus on that, rather than focus on not what you can do and the limitations because you have the injury. So at the time when I had the left shoulder, and I was really frustrated, because can you imagine, you're already in brown belt, you're so
Yes,
close
you are
already
so
getting that
close.
black belt, and you can't properly train because you had the injury. And I don't know what happened, but you know um I just focus on that, what I can do. I still focus on just keep on teaching the women's only classes, even though, and they understood that. They
Mm.
understand that I've got my injury and things like that.
Mm.
But can you imagine if, if you just focus on your injury, and, you're just gonna stop just because of the injury, and think this. these are the life lessons that I think the students doesn't sort of understand, that these are life lessons that you actually applied off the mats. These are the life lessons that you learn
For
on the
sure.
mats. Yeah.
For sure. I think yeah, I think talking about pushing through all those different types of adversity is a good way to maybe round out talking about kind of your personal experiences in jiu-jitsu up to this point, so close to that black belt. Just quickly, there are two questions. Maybe we can talk about moving into the future now with your jiu-jitsu. So Conrad has asked two different questions. The first I'll ask is, what are your future goals?
Well, my future goals definitely is to get my black belt, right?
Of course.
So, yeah, so that's gonna be my future goal. But um, I think, like what I've mentioned, and that's what I said to Prof. David. I said, you know, if, for example, we'll be able to be in that position where we can pay someone to be the program director, I would rather
Mm,
have that rather
mm,
than me, because I don't know. So it's a struggle for me really to be the program director, because you know I'm just that person where I'm moody, like I can be so happy today, but then the next day, most especially when something happens at work,
mm.
that I can bring it onto the mess. And that's why I think it's very, very important. That's what I've noticed for those school owners who, and the professors and the coaches who really is just into jiu-jitsu, because and I totally understood it, because they said that basically you need to be always be happy, always be positive on the mats, because you'll be dealing with your students and things like that.
Mm.
But I guess I'm very blessed and I'm truly grateful for all of our Gracie Baja Blacktown City students and the coaches and the professors, because they're able to deal with me because it was almost 2 years. It's almost 2 years that we've opened Gracie Baja Blacktown City, and you know, and most especially in 2020, it was super difficult for me because I've lost my father, and I wasn't able to go home back in the
Mm.
Philippines to actually say my final goodbye. But jiu-jitsu saved me and helped me, because my why is bigger than my father, you know
Sure,
being, yeah. So
sure.
I have that why that I need to continue showing
Mm.
and going to the gym for our students, for our parents, for the kids,
Mm.
to be there to support Professor Nelson, Professor Dave, Coach Icy, and everyone else in Gracie Baja Blacktown City. Because like what I've said, sometimes, you know as a program director, it can be a totally different, um, it doesn't sort of set with me, but then I need to take that to be of service to these people,
Mm.
and I think that's the best and the most important in jiu-jitsu as well in this journey, is that you really need to have and to know your why. Why are
Sure.
you with Gracie Baja? Why are you doing jiu-jitsu? Because at the end of the day, if you're feeling down, if you don't feel training,
Mm.
that's where you always go back. What is your why? Why are you training? Why are you with Gracie Baja?
Yes. I'm gonna sideline Conrad's second question for a moment here. You mentioned a few times some of the difficulties you experienced as the program director, and how it doesn't always mesh, perhaps, with all of your personality. But
Mm,
at the same time, just talking with you now, talking with you before we began the interview, it seems like community is something that's still really important to you, especially within jiu-jitsu, I suppose.
yep.
Could you describe to us maybe how that relationship developed, especially if I, I know, and I've seen this, some students who are very big, open, positive people, they walk into Gracie Baja gyms and the Gracie Baja community, and it's just like puzzle pieces, clicks together perfectly. Did you have that sensation, or was it like learning, I don't know, perhaps new skills, something new about yourself to explore and experience the Gracie Baja community?
The way I will explain to people about jiu-jitsu, it's like marriage, Yes, definitely. Because, what I have like over through for that 10 years of my jiu-jitsu journey, what I have learned is that you really need to communicate because, you know, there will always be something, your students will always have something to say, or maybe they don't like this way of teaching or things like that, or they don't like this and this and this. But as a student, what I've learned is that you really need to communicate it, because if there's no communication,
Mm,
then you wouldn't know where the
mm,
other person is coming from, you wouldn't communicate, you wouldn't understand each other and things like that. So it's really, really, really important to communicate. And, like what I've said, be yourself, like
yes.
with me, this is what I can say. I've always been honest. If I'm not in the mood, I'm pretty sure Professor Nelson or my students can say and tell. But at the end of the day, if your intention is good, everything else will fall into place. And I guess, with my heart, deep in my heart, really is to serve the community of Blacktown City. And,
Mm,
because I think with Blacktown, it's a city where, basically you'll hear stories, right? The West, this is the West and things like that. So I guess, to be able to have that Gracie Baja in Blacktown City and help each and every student that's going to
mm,
come into that room, into that academy, to actually help to be a better version of themselves through jiu-jitsu. It's a platform that we use, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
um, then we will be able to better the whole community, and then one at a time the whole world. But
Yes.
basically, like what I've said, because sometimes you'll always be focused on, oh, I want to change the world, I want to change the world. But really, what I have experienced and what I have learned is that you really need to look at yourself first, because then, you know when you can change for the better, when you can change, to be a better version of yourself, then
Mm,
you can be a better person to be of service to others. And like what I've said, I won't, I may not be the best program director there is, but what I can say is that every single, um, student that comes in, because I guess my mentality is different as well. Like, if for example someone comes in and they don't sort of like get, like for example they already tried jiu-jitsu and things like that, and
mm-hmm.
they don't like, um sort of like it or things like that, I'm not very pushy, because
Mm,
I think as a Grace, like with Gracie Baja as an organization, um we really, Gracie Baja already achieved that, where we're like the Ferrari or the Porsche. We don't need to
I
advertise just to say we are the best. You get what I mean? Like,
understand.
that's
Yeah.
just my mentality, and
Mm,
like, you know it's an opportunity and an honor to be a member of Gracie Baja. So I wouldn't really push someone,
mm,
because I want them to. It's like, I guess, the way I see it, it's like universities.
sure.
Okay, like being accepted into a university. That's
Mm.
what I feel like doing. It's as if I'm the principal, you're the student applying. Are you worthy of Gracie Baja, to be a Gracie Baja student? You know what I mean? So
Sure, sure, I
I think,
understand.
I don't know, I'm
We even
probably
have
weird, but
professors.
I've got a different perception of, and I've got a different mentality of things. Yeah.
Mm, mm. No, uh, terrific, terrific answers. I want to keep talking to you a little bit about community, especially within jiu-jitsu. And I know when Professor Kendall Rusing was on last week ago, 2 weeks ago, we spoke about this as well. But I wanted to discuss with you your thoughts on sort of being a woman within the jiu-jitsu space, what that experience was like in the beginning, and then of course we can talk about what it might be like now. So when you began training, 2011, um, what was it like to be a woman on the mats in the gym?
Yeah, like what I've mentioned, it was hard. It was
Mm,
hard because there's not enough women training. Because obviously, you want to feel safe, and you want to feel comfortable on the
mm,
mats, right? And as a woman, I guess that's just normal for a woman to feel uncomfortable rolling with another man, most especially, if you're married, right? So I don't, at the time, it was hard for me. And I guess, because as you know, jiu-jitsu is a very male dominant sport, right?
yes.
And really, to actually see a woman training, they'll be like, "Ooh, you're training jiu-jitsu," and because like if you're a girly, right? You'll be like, "Oh, sweat," and you'll be like really face to face with that person. You can smell and like
Yeah,
everything, their hair, everything,
it can be a lot.
name
It
it.
can be a lot.
It's too much, right? It's too much for a woman. So um, it was tough, but now I'm so proud and super, 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 super excited where
Mm,
jiu-jitsu will basically lead to, and it's just keep on growing. And now we've got our women's only classes, and there may be seven, there may be just 10, but like what I've
mm,
mentioned to the ladies, and I applaud those ladies who just kept on showing to the women's only classes for supporting the program, because then you know by doing that, then you're actually helping
yes,
women,
yes.
and
I completely
women
agree.
to
Yeah.
have a place in jiu-jitsu, and
Mm,
like
mm,
I think a lot of women athletes had that struggle as well, because
mm.
it's a male dominant sport, but now it's really good to see a lot of women training. So
For sure. I think just in the time I've done jujitsu, and probably you have this experience too, the women's classes are getting bigger. But what do you think needs to change or to continue to change to sort of ensure that the space within jujitsu, like most martial arts, right? It tends to be a male dominated space, but I don't think it has to or needs to be. So what do you think should continue to change for that to keep changing, keep progressing?
um I think it's really more of doing educating women, and
Mm.
that's why we've got that program. Sorry, because you kind of lost, but I got that
Oh, did my
by the
audio
end.
cut out?
Yeah, to me, but basically you were at, yeah, you
Mm-mm.
just ask about what we can do to
Yeah,
about
what do you
women. Yeah,
think needs to continue to change?
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, like what I've mentioned, what we can do is to actually educate women, and that's why we've got the women's program, during the women's program,
Mm,
the self-defense program.
mm,
Um, so yeah, but in Blacktown City, Professor Nelson was the one who ran it, because he's got a background in training the police officers and things like that.
wow.
But yeah, so it was really good to see that we've got all this program within Gracie Baja to actually educate and get more and more women training jiu-jitsu. And I guess
Mm,
it's really up to the school as well. And like what I've mentioned, Gracie Baja has actually have that culture of making sure that this is going to be an academy for everyone, not
mm.
just for athletes, not just for young ones, but also for the masters. I'll
That's
be
it.
turning
That's
I'll be
it.
turning 42 in October, so I feel really old now.
Have to take care of that shoulder, coach.
Yes, yes, yes.
Alrighty, maybe this is a good time to ask Conrad. I finally found a way, sir. If you're still listening, your second question, coach. Who inspires you in the jiu-jitsu universe? Who are your inspirations?
I've got hips. I've got
Oh, let's
hips,
go.
But basically, my husband and my son and my kids basically inspired me.
Mm,
But if you'll be asking about, those jiu-jitsu athletes, or um, whoever is in jiu-jitsu community, I love Kira Gracie. I love
mm-hmm,
Michelle Nicolini.
mm-hmm,
I love Professor Ana Laura. Their stories are very interesting and very, very inspiring. I love Professor Draculino. I love Professor Felipe Gides yeah. So these are, I guess, you will always be attracted to that person more or less. You got that vibe, we like with Professor Draculino, we don't, I haven't met him, he haven't met me, but the moment that I've actually met him, it was just like I've known him for so long, and that, he just inspired us, and and in this journey, it's very important for someone to actually believe in you
Sure.
and really focus on that. It'll be a blessing, and you need to be grateful for that, because back in the day, and I actually let me just share this, right? Because sometimes, with the whole social media thing and things like that, and this is how I guess Gracie Baja has evolved, and you guys are very lucky to actually have Gracie Baja now. Because back in the day, oh my goodness, if you've seen the gi and things like that, and you'll go to the competition, there'll probably be 100 people. But now when you go to the competition, my goodness, there'll be thousands and thousands of people,
Yes,
so
packed.
yeah. So you know my thing is, with like what I've mentioned, it's very, very important to communicate, because this one instance that I did, that I guess, it's very important to actually communicate, because at the time, I remember I posted it on Facebook, because you know how, I don't know if you know, but at the time with Gracie Baja, we've got the t-shirts that with years written on it.
I'm not sure if I
You don't
recall.
know, you
No,
don't know.
no.
But basically, with the Gracie Baja competition shirt, they have it every single year. So if, for example, it's 2021 now,
I think it
next
has
year
2018 on the back.
so next year there'll be 2022, right? So
Yes, yes.
basically, you need to get the t-shirt every single year and buy it. So here I am. I'm like, I'm going to take the bullet and things like that. But you know what? The thing is, though, and that's what I said, you just need to communicate, because you'll never know. Gracie Baha will be listening, and if your intention is really good, everything will fall into place and everything will follow. And I guess, that's the thing, there will always be, you'll always have a complaint and things like that, something that you don't like and things like that. Like what I said, a while ago, it's like marriage, right? But all you need to do is communicate. No matter what it is, if it's negative, you communicate. If it's a complaint, you communicate, because then the other person will know how to address it and how to help
Yes.
you, or
Yes.
they'll be able to explain to you that the reason why it is what it is. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, I understand.
So yeah,
You're talking about students too, you mean? The students should be, yes,
yes.
exactly.
The students will, and as a Gracie Baja student, you need to be able to communicate with your professors, with your coaches. If you don't like something, you just need to communicate, and that's it. And so that we'll know how to address it. And as a Gracie Baja organization, I believe that's what they've been doing as well. They always ask for feedback. They always have the survey on how they can better the service of Gracie Baja, which is really good, because back then we don't have it.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Gracie Baja doesn't have it. So it's really a journey, and I'm just really thankful and grateful that I'm still here in this journey.
I'm grateful you sat down and did an interview with us this evening, Coach. Look, we're burning up the clock, as tends to happen. I look down and all of a sudden it's gotten away from us. There's a couple questions left. I have some questions of my own. To all our friends listening, if you have a question for Coach that you want to get in before we close up, now's the time. Drop them in, and we'll power through them and wrap it up there. Coach, a question from Shenna. She wants to know about your jiu-jitsu game. So she's asked, how would you describe your jiu-jitsu style? How has it changed over the years? And what is your favorite game to play at the moment? 3 questions in one.
Yes. So With my jiu-jitsu, I love spider guards. So I love
Mm-hmm.
spider guard. And I basically love the basics, the
Mm.
fundamentals.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of like the bimbolos and all those stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I sort of tried to master, and like Roger Gracie,
Yes.
is a master of the basics as
Yes.
well. And I truly believe in that you need to practice those techniques and master those techniques that works with your body,
Mm.
because we have different body types. My body is different from you. So as I always explain to my students, explore what your body can do.
Mm.
Don't compare your what you can do, what your jiu-jitsu can do, to my jiu-jitsu. Do you get what I mean? So
Yes. For sure. For
as a
sure.
coach, I want my students to be able to explore and learn and know what their own body can do,
Mm.
because sometimes a technique that I love wouldn't fit with you. Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely.
So my advice for Shanna is to really focus on what your body can do, and really focus on, because every time you do a technique, it will just feel right if it suits your body type.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if it doesn't, no matter what you do, no matter what tweaks or what adjustments you'll do, it
Yeah.
just wouldn't work. Believe
Yes.
me. So just enjoy and just explore in your journey.
Mm.
And like what I always say, don't ever compare yourself to anyone else. Focus on that.
Mm.
Be a horse, but just focus on your path, because you're the only one that will be taking that path, no one
Mm.
else.
Mm.
So if and no matter and don't worry about how much time. And if, for example, because I think maybe a lot of students will get sort of disappointed that they didn't get promoted and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't focus on that. Just
Mm.
really focus on how you're going to be better, like, and compete with yourself rather than competing and be a better version of someone else. You get what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Just be Your jiu-jitsu will be better than everyone else. So um and I guess everything else will follow. And like, don't worry about whatever other people will say about your
Mm.
jiu-jitsu, or that they may think that, oh, your jiu-jitsu sucks, or you only know this and things like that. Really focus on what your body can do, and explore that, and really do what what fits you, what feels good for you.
Yes. I agree. Some of us are not meant to berimbolo, right, coach? It just doesn't feel right, huh? Okay, another one. Conrad has asked another question here. Does every club have a program director? I assume he means the
Yes,
Subaha.
yes,
Yes.
yes, 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 yes,
Yes.
yes. So every school has a program director. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A question here I'm going to add on to as well. How many times have you submitted, Professor Dave? And I would like to know, how many times have you submitted your son Isaiah, and was it because he was naughty at home or something like this?
No. With Professor Dave, I've submitted him probably 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
But with Isaiah, no, I can't remember when I've submitted Isaiah. But yeah. But it's good, because as a family, if you're training as a family, you'll have someone to talk about, like
Mm.
whenever you're eating together, dinner time, we'll talk about a technique and things
Mm.
like that. So I guess I don't know, I guess it really made us as a family. And like, at the gym, after the class, we'll all be there
Mm.
doing the cleaning and things like that. So it might like it can be very tiring, but you know I guess this like being a school owner helped my kids at such a young age, and like them training jiu-jitsu, um, it helped them to realize the importance of being of service to others, and that, because Gracie Baha taught me that you are, as a Gracie Baha student, you are a member, and you basically is a part of something bigger than yourself, right? So when actually that happened to me, when I needed to, so I went to Weatherill Park as well to help Weatherill Park when they opened.
Mm.
That's it, and I can't wait for someone right now training jiu-jitsu to be in that position as well, that you're going to be of service to others, because that's the way how the legacy will continue, because
Yes.
the professors will basically grow older, and the coaches will grow older, so we need to keep um, really developing someone and helping someone to be a coach, or to help them with their jiu-jitsu journey, so that they can be then another one who will be coaching and who can be teaching jiu-jitsu.
Yes, beautiful. Coach, you're full of such inspirational answers every single time. A couple more quick ones before we wrap up. I can see another question here.
Yes.
My goodness. One more question here. Two more questions. Have you submitted Professor Nelson before?
You know what? I've trained with Professor Nelson, and I haven't submitted Professor Nelson as well.
He's
Um
holding up a 0
I'm,
on his camera,
or
Coach.
you know what? Or probably I was able to submit him back in West Ride, but I think he's just being nice to me and letting me submit him.
He doesn't
Yeah.
look too happy about this, Coach. He doesn't look
I submitted him with a choke, which is
50,
his
50
favorite.
times. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, so I submitted him with a choke, so which is his favorite. So I think that just means that he's very good in teaching chokes.
There's another question about Professor Nelson. Professor, I'm sorry to do this to you. I'm just, a messenger for the people. I'm just reading out what's given to me. The question, Coach, is: does Professor Nelson's shampoo chalk works?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay.
And
Okay.
most especially with, I guess, the Gracie Baja West Ride students, they'll say yes, because otherwise we won't be talking about it now.
Terrific. Professor, I'm sorry about this. I had to do it. Alrighty. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Coach, thank you so much for sitting down, for talking to us, for giving us so much of your positive energy this evening. I had the sensation before I spoke with you that you'd be a really positive and inspirational person to talk to. I was correct. So thank you again. If there's
No,
anything
thank
you'd like
you.
to say to us before we depart, please.
Yes, so I just really want to thank everyone who tuned in for tonight, because, like what I've said to Nick, I was really surprised when Professor Nelson said, "They need your number, they need your number, they want to interview you." So I was like, "Oh, really?" Because I actually deactivated my Facebook, because with everything that's happening, sometimes you just want to
Yes.
basically, stay away from everything. Otherwise, you'll go crazy with everything that's been happening, and with everything that, I guess, struggles, not just here, but anywhere in the world. So, to all of you who's joining tonight, please, just be strong. This too shall pass. We're going to be back by October, hopefully. And, just really use this time, because I know that everyone misses training jiu-jitsu, right? But really use this time to assess and to really appreciate whatever you have. Like, we're very I guess, really, really blessed that Gracie Baja now has, GB online. We've got this Zoom meetings and things like that. So really focus on what we can control rather than what we can. So yeah, that's all. We're all in this together, and just so you know, even if we're not very active in social media and things like that, we are just here, and we can't wait to have you back on the mats.
Terrific. Coach, thank you. I don't think there's anything more I could add to that. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And like what I've said, whatever I can do to be of service to you all, I'll be here no matter what. And, even if, like, because you mentioned, the spotlight is yours, even though I don't like spotlights at all, but yeah, I'll be more than happy to talk to you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. If you want, you can unmute, yell a good night and a goodbye to our coach, our guest for the evening. Thank you so much again, Coach. Really, it's been
Thanks,
a pleasure.
Sheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Terrific. Coach, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Fantastic.
Thank you, Nick.
My pleasure.
Thank you
Awesome.
for everything that you do.
Hey, thank you. Thank you to Jack helping me out behind the scenes tonight. He did a stellar job. It made it very easy to just engage with Coach Sheryl. Awesome. Alrighty, guys, we're going to wrap up the stream. The recording should be up on YouTube if you want to watch it a second time or any bits you missed. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bless you.